future of dryland agriculture. You all know there is a lot of agrarian distress, especially in the drylands. Probably if you could go drylands, what are the drylands in India generally? From you see the Rajasthan desert areas to Gujarat, some parts of Gujarat, and below that some parts of Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra especially, most of the drylands, and even Karnataka, Telangana, even some parts of Telangana, Tamil Nadu. So these are all the drylands where in general rainfall is very scarce. Farmers depend on monsoons. There is no irrigation facilities. So farmers have to store the rainwater and do reuse that stored water for agricultural purposes. In general, mostly they can grow only one crop maximum. The two yields of this crop is very much less, probably when compared to the irrigated lands, and there are less employment and income opportunities. There are some famines or suicide, means farmer suicide, many farmer suicides reported in those dryland areas. The fluctuation year after year, sometimes there is a flood, sometimes there is scarcity of rain, sometimes droughts, or these are all the uncertainties characterized by this dryland agriculture. So in this lecture, I will go through what are the current problems, what are the dryland agriculture, what are the current problems, how the government of India and different government agencies are working on, and what will be the future of drylands. The concept of dryland agriculture, world and Indian area under drylands, problems in drylands, is the outline of presentation, and our Central Research Institute for Dryland Agriculture, what are the initiatives, because we are working on dryland agriculture, managing droughts and conclusion. So, domain related to major challenges persist in millennium. What is reclaiming degraded lands? Most of the degraded lands are located in the dryland areas because dryland areas are neglected, not only decades or years, but over centuries they have been neglected, like Rajasthan, the Thar Desert, like Maharashtra, Vidarbha region, even in some parts of Telangana. Restoring and safeguarding critical ecological functions. The land include soil moisture, soil microbes, microclimate, forest, all these things. So how to restore, safeguard the critical ecological functions? So if you increase the biomass in terms of crop cover, once you cover the crop, cover the soil with some sort of vegetation, then you will see a lot of microbes, increasing desirable pests and desirable micro means insects and all these things, improving rural livelihoods, because these rural areas, these drylands, occupying about 60% of our cropped area. They are the source of livelihood for about 50% of the livelihoods of the people in the rural areas, increasing crop production. So, the dryland crops, pulses, oil seeds, millets. So, for all these crops, drylands are the major source of production. Even the best possible scenario of irrigation development, about 40% of the additional supply of food grains needed to match future needs is through rain-fed agriculture, rain-fed area or dryland agriculture. It is Partha Committee. International Food Policy Research Institute, with the rising demand for food in the coming decades, India will depend on the rain-fed areas to help increase supply. So we should not neglect the rain-fed areas because of their low productivity. Even we have to depend on them. Application of new science tools in rain-fed agriculture opens up new vistas for development through watershed management. Even now, so for example, you see the cotton revolution. whether it is in Gujarat, whether it is in Maharashtra, whether it is in Andhra Pradesh or Tamil Nadu, there is a lot of increase in a cotton area in the recent years. It is mostly cotton is a dryland crop, more or less. Some one or two supplemental irrigation may be there, but so productivity of these dryland crops are increasing steeply. For example, pearl millet yields are increased, sorghum yields were increased. If conservation of natural resources goes wrong, nothing else will go right in agriculture or in especially the conserve the land and water. These two are very, very important. We have to manage them very, in a very optimistic way so that we can ensure the current productivity without compromising on future productivity of the land. So, in general, the desertification and land degradation atlas of India released by ISRO revealed that 93 million hectares of the land witnessing land degradation. 93 million out of some 350 million hectares of India, 90, see about one third is land degradation is happening in India. Per capita land availability, you see very much, it is just 1 hectare, 1 to 2 acres, 2.2 to 2.5 acres. Per capita agricultural land is per farmer, it is just agricultural land is 0.29 hectares. It's reducing steeply in India and also world. India commitment towards sustainable development goals nationally determining commitments and land degradation neutrality to the extent of 26 million hectares by 2000. So the land degradation neutrality means whatever because of the so many agricultural activities, different anthropogenic human intervention activities, land is degrading. So we have international commitment in that land degradation neutrality means whatever the land is degraded, a compensatory land, we have to reclaim the degraded land so that there is a neutral, there is no change in ultimately the land available for cultivation. India would raise its ambition of total area that would be restored from its land degradation status from 21 million hectares to 26 million. So we have to recover 26 million hectares degraded land by 2030. That's a huge task. Rainfed agriculture in the current scenario, as I mentioned, about our net cropped area is about 145 million hectares. 145 million hectares. Of that, 73, almost about 50% is rain-fed, depends on the rains. Remaining 50% depends on the irrigation for water mainly. And 40% of human population depending on the rain-fed agriculture. It's synonymous. Rain-fed and drylands are more or less synonymous. 40% of human population depending on the rain-fed agriculture. 2/3 of livestock population, especially if you go to any dryland areas, you can easily see many goat, sheep rearing, goat rearing. Many people depends on sheep and goat in those dryland areas. Even poultry is also coming when the cattle, etc. But mainly the rising demand for sheep and goat meat is also making these drylands cultivation or the rearing of these livestock means goat, sheep, etc. is becoming more popular nowadays, more profitable also. India's 84% of rural poor, including majority of the tribal population in rainfed areas. It contributes 40% of grain production, as I mentioned earlier. 90% of the minor millets, 87% of nutri-cereals. You all know what is nutri-cereal. Sorghum, pearl millet, and figure millets, and maize also. 85% of pulses, 72% of oilseeds, and 65% of cotton. But only 44% of rice are cultivated in the rainfed areas. So, as we are already discussing, there is a more or less a revolution type of thing in the maize productivity, which is also majorly grown in the rainfed areas. Even pulses productivity is also increased. The best example is the chickpea, and even cotton. As I mentioned earlier, cotton revolution is also happening in the dryland areas, especially because of the BT technology, BT cotton. Average per hectare yield in irrigated areas 3 tons and in rainfed areas 1.1 ton only. It is less than, more or less less than 1 ton. So how we can increase rainfed area productivity from the currently 1.1 ton per hectare to probably 2 or 3 tons per hectare in the near future is the big challenge. That is how the future of dryland agriculture determines. Rainfed agriculture in India, the current scenario, degraded resource base, low organic matter and low nutrients. You see, there is no moisture, means organic matter will not develop, biomass will not develop, so low organic matter. Diverse climatic conditions, soil types and cropping systems, poor economic status of the farmers, high climatic risks, shallow depth of soils, poor vegetation, poor productivity, low productivity. So, for example, in the dryland agriculture, if you see the any dryland piece of 1 hectare or something like that, out of 100% rainfall, about 10 to 30% percolation, deep percolation, it will not be available to the crop cultivation. It is below the root zone. This is 10 to 30% is directly going as a waste. Remaining, 10 to 25% go as a runoff. It will not be useful for the place where the rainwater falls. It may be somewhere useful, but not on the same plot. And 30 to 50% it will go as a evaporation. That is also waste. Through soil or exposure to sunlight, water will evaporate. Or just for air also water will evaporate. Moisture will evaporate. And only useful is transpiration. Through plants, water will go away to atmosphere. That is called transpiration, 15 to 30%. Which aspect is more big? Because we have to reduce evaporation. How you will reduce evaporation? Nowadays, plastic mulches are coming. Even cover soil with some vegetation, always some vegetation. So evaporation will not take place much. How do you control runoff? Runoff will be controlled by again vegetation. If you cover soils with some plants, trees, or some shrubs, etc., runoff will be. We can easily control 50% of the loss, evaporation and runoff water, and we can use that water with the optimal recreation strategies. Classification of drylands. So rainfed areas get precipitation between 500 to 1200. So drylands are divided into 3 categories. One, dry cultivation. Rainfall is less than 750 mm. Dry cultivation. Rainfall is 750 mm. The growing season is less than 75 days. That means you cannot even grow a single crop. Mostly those lands may be suitable for livestock rearing or fodder crops or goat and sheep rearing, etc., etc. But if a crop is having 3 months or 4 months duration, 4 months, 5 months duration, we cannot grow that crop in dry cultivation. Dry land cultivation, the rainfall is little bit more than 750 mm. The growing period is 75 to 124 months. Up to 4 months, there will be some moisture, some rainfall. You can easily grow some short duration varieties. Rain-fed cultivation. Here, so the dry cultivation is mostly in Rajasthan, Thar desert type of thing. Dry land cultivation is mostly in Maharashtra, some parts of Telangana, where the rainfall is moderate. Rain-fed cultivation, where the rainfall is more than 1150 mm, and you see most of the coastal belts, the coastal Andhra, coastal Orissa, coastal Chhattisgarh, coastal West Bengal, all these are all rainfall is more than 1150 mm, and at least if we conserve water through farm ponds or check dams or watershed tools, definitely in these rainfed cultivation we can increase cropping intensity. Instead of one single crop, we can grow two crops. Cropping intensity will be increased from 100% to 200%. India has almost 108 million hectares of rain-fed zone, which constitute about 70% of the entire 143 million hectares of arable land. So, what is in the rain-fed areas? The main criteria we have to see is rainfall. What is the rainfall pattern? Depending on the rainfall pattern, we have to grow the crops. For example, pre-monsoon, March, April, May. These 3 months are pre-monsoon months. Where the rainfall is 94 mm generally. The monsoon period starting from June, July, August, September, 4 months, a maximum 78% of the rainfall, total rainfall comes, which is equivalent to 251 millimeters. There is a post-monsoon, October, November 109, and winter, just a negligible rainwater. So our main crop growing period is starting from June and probably ending in September and October. Only single crop can be grown, but if you use water in a more appropriate way, we can store water and reuse that water for the next crop. And rainfall and heredity index. So, of course, this is not required that much. We have already covered what is the concept here. So, where are these rain-fed areas? So, most of the hyper-arid and arid, hyper-arid, you see the hyper-arid means the rainfall is very scarce, very scarce. Which are these? Sub-Saharan Africa, the Middle East, Arab, Saudi Arabia, and Afghanistan and Pakistan up to parts of Pakistan. These are all the hyper arid. Rainfall is very less. Arid is India is also covering in arid and semi-arid, and some parts of Africa, some parts of Australia, and also some parts of North America. So these are some of the classification of the spread or of the world drylands. How the India, within India, what is the spread of drylands? The dark red is arid, mostly the rainfall is, as I mentioned, it is less than 500 mm also. So the Rajasthan and Gujarat, parts of Maharashtra and Telangana. Anantapur district, you may be knowing very famous Anantapur district. Or arid, semi-arid area is much higher. It starts from UP, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. Also. Most of the Tamil Nadu comes under semi-arid areas. You see the dry subhumid is all these Orissa, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Bihar, etc. And perhumid, most humid areas are, the Cherrapunji. World highest rainfall area is falling in is northeastern states. So corresponding to these areas, arid and semi-arid area, what are the crops grown? You see, generally cotton, groundnut, millets. These are the main crop: cotton, groundnut, millets, pulses, oilseeds. These are the main crops. And humid areas where the rainfall is much higher, mostly they grow the rice crop. And the drought-prone areas. What are the drought-prone? High frequency of dry spells is again, as I mentioned, the red areas is Rajasthan, Gujarat, parts of Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Andhra Pradesh. Rain-fed areas. How to, for example, in a district, if you take a district, in district or in a village, you will see simultaneously some irrigated areas adjacent to the same area, irrigated area. You will see some dry lands without any irrigation facilities. Then how we can classify that particular village as a rain-fed area, rain-fed or irrigated? Simple logic is any region has less than 30% of 30% irrigated area in a village. Overall sum, for example, 100 hectares is there. If only 25 or less than 30 hectares is irrigated, remaining 70% is unirrigated, then you can classify that village, that block, or that district as rain-fed agriculture. That is the big concept. So if the irrigated area is more than 30%, 35 or 40 or 50% of the total area in that particular village, we can call as irrigated village. But if the rain-fed area is less than 30%, 10%, 20%, or 29%, we can call it as a rain-fed village. Overall, water management ranges from in situ conservation. You see, in situ means plowing, deep plowing. Once rainwater comes, water will go deep into the soils. Water management ranges from in situ conservation to drainage also. Ex situ soil water harvest for supplemental irrigation. Ex situ means somewhere you have to store water harvest structures. Watershed-based water management is backbone for overall land productivity improvement. Watershed, what are the watershed activities? To just put some obstacles for rainwater flow. Store that water in the soil or in a farm pot or whatever the place you wish, and use that stored water for growing crops or for drinking water, whatever the purpose, for off season, post rainy season. That is the basic concept of watershed based management. Rain-fed agriculture covers all the climate, several annual perennial crops, thus emphasize a range of agro-eco regions contribute to 44% of the food production and supports 40% of population and two-thirds, 66% of livestock. As I mentioned already, our total geographical area is 328 million hectares. Out of that, net cultivated area is about 161 million hectares. Net rainfed area is 141. Net irrigated area is 50 million hectares. So the less than 30% is rain-fed. Rain-fed is dark shade. You see, rain-fed areas are mostly in where the Gujarat, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, even Karnataka, a small parts of Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh also. But the most of the entire Haryana, most parts of Uttar Pradesh, most parts of Bihar are irrigated areas. Even Tamil Nadu, even Telangana and Andhra Pradesh also irrigated areas. Problems of dryland agriculture. What are the problems of dryland agriculture? Early droughts, what we have mentioned, droughts in the months of July, onset of during the onset, July is the generally onset, June, July. During the onset months, July, there is a dry spell that is called early drought. Terminal drought. So generally, rains will be there up to September, but there is no water. There is no rainfall in the September month totally. Then it is called terminal drought. Early drought, terminal drought. Early drought in the month of June, terminal drought in the month of September. So I don't want to go into this. So then these are the problems which early drought, dry spells, and terminal droughts. So what are the CREDA initiatives? Here, whenever, for example, in this year, most of the Orissa, Chhattisgarh, Bihar, all these states where the generally rainfall is much higher, this year there is no rainfall. That's why the rice cultivated is reduced. So what they will do? They do go for alternative crops. Which are the alternative crops? Like millets, pulses, oil seeds, which consume less water, which are having some short duration varieties. So status of dryland, we are developing district-wise contingency plans. So, for example, from 2014 to 19, most of the we are every year we are developing contingency plans and distributing to the state governments for implementation. In normal year, there is no need of implementing contingency plan. Only if there is a drought, if there is a flood, if there is an abnormal year, then you have to use contingency plans. Drought proofing action plans. For example, if there is a severe drought, we have to develop some drought proofing action plans, which includes different departments: agriculture, animal husbandry, horticulture, irrigation, groundwater, rural development, even sericulture, and location specific technologies we have to introduce in that particular areas. Management practices in normal and drought years. We have to differentiate between normal year, what are the management practices. In the drought year, what are the management practices? For example, during drought years, production can be enhanced in medium to high rainfall areas with more certainty. Response to seas higher. During the normal years, cropping intensity can be enhanced by provision of one irrigation. One irrigation, supplementary irrigation we can provide during the drought spell by using the farm ponds or check dams or stored water. The main component of management practices is supplemental irrigation. During the dry spells, early droughts or late droughts or even some dry spell. Shallow depth. So we are also having a pan-India National Innovations in Climate Resilient Agriculture NICA Pan-India 1 program. Under that, we are doing some dryland agriculture research. We are also demonstrating climate resilient technologies. Climate resilient technologies means in a particular village, if there are some frequent droughts, we have to introduce drought resistant varieties, or some floods, we have to introduce flood resistant varieties. Once we introduce these drought resistant varieties, even though there is a drought spell in that particular year, the yields will not decrease that much. Will only decrease slightly, but not that much. And we are strengthening capacity building for all the KVKs. About 750 KVKs are there in India. Krishi Vijnana Kendras, we are strengthening them through our training programs, on-farm demonstrations, some tools and innovative technologies to draw policy guidelines for wider scale adoption of resilience enhancing technologies and options to enhance the resilience of Indian agriculture to climate variability and climate change. So in this NICRA project, what is NICRA? National Innovations in Climate Resilient Agriculture. In this NICRA project, we have some 23 ICR institutions, IITs, SAUs, and granting agencies. So these are all research institutions, technology demonstrations. As I mentioned, there are some about 750 KVKs are involved in this, and these are all the locations where we are doing some research. Technology demonstrations also. Drought, only drought. If there is a drought and a heat wave together, what will be the technologies? If drought and floods simultaneously occurring in a particular village, what will be the technologies? Drought and salinity, what will be the technology? Heat waves, high temperature stresses, what will be? So different combinations of these natural calamities, and we are developing some package of practices to be adopted by under different situations. And these modules and major interventions are natural resource management, livestock and fisheries, natural resource management. This land and water management is there. Livestock and fisheries. Livestock is especially goat and sheep is particularly important for dryland agriculture, even cattle are also important. Enabling support systems. Support system means we are developing seed villages, fodder banks, custom hiring centers, and climate services and agro advisory services, village climate risk management committees. So strengthening the local capabilities in particular village, in those villages is very, very important, like Panchayat Raj institutions, like farmer producer organizations, even we are doing that crop production system, integrated farming system, resilient cropping systems, and crops and livestock. So, an integrated approach we are following, we are having different modules in the farming systems approach. So, as I mentioned, institutional interventions in micro villages, village climate risk management committees are there. Each village, we have selected some villages, climate fast and resilient villages. We are introducing these KB, these technologies. We are, we are introducing this village climate resilient risk management committees, progressive aggregating or collect, by gathering some progressive farmers, making committee, and through this committee, we are introducing some new technologies. Custom hiring centers. You all know the custom hiring centers of tractors, custom plant, the power tillers, sprayers, dusters. All these are all available in our all these smart climate smart villages, and they will be charging for this per hour basis, and that charges will be used for agricultural purposes only. The seed banks, fodder banks, so there. So this is the village monitoring. I don't want to go because of time paucity. So there are, I already discussed. So again, the drylands and the agrarian districts go hand in hand. For example, yes, so wherever there is a dryland, there is a lot of exposure to the drought type of situations. Farmers need to adapt to this type of situation through check dams, construction of farm ponds, water harvest structures, the different type of agronomic practices, sensitivity to this, exposure. Sometimes a small and marginal farmer is more sensitive, or the villages with no irrigation filters are very, very sensitive to these climate changes. And mitigation and adoption strategies. What are the mitigation strategies? Aiming at tackling the causes and minimizing the positive impacts of species. Hello? So this mitigation and adoption strategies, adoption dealing with how farmers are adjusted to drought situations. So mitigation and triggers. Sometimes if farmers are exposed to all these natural calamities, drought, floods, etc. In addition to that, there will be some huge expenditure for the farming community, like daughter's marriage, like consecutive failure of bore wells. For each borewell farmers near about they are spending about 1 lakh. So if consecutively 3-4 borewells fail, means he is losing 3-4 lakhs. Or consecutive failure of crop loss. For example, if he is cultivating some commercial crop, he may be losing some 1 lakh per acre. That type of situation. These are the triggers which will have a long-term impact on the psychological factors of the farmers. They may go for suicide, they may go for some other, isolated from the society. This type of things will happen, and ultimately the impact, it will impact whole families. So what we call them as a 7 pillars of understanding the farmer's distress. Whether the farmer is exposed to drought, whether the farmer is an adaptive capacity himself, joint families are more adaptive, or irrigation is having more adaptive capacity. Sensitive, how much sensitive the farmer is. If he is having only dry lands, he is more sensitive. Whether the farmer is able to adapt mitigation adaptation strategies, is there any triggers which having huge loss to the farmers? And these triggers have any impact on the psychological factors of the farmers and ultimately the. So these are all we have to understand holistically how we can manage the droughts. Because time is very less, I just want to go to how we can manage droughts, through some pictures. So water tanks, farm ponds, check down. These are the crucial inputs for managing droughts or drought related things. So for example, if a farmer having constructed some one particular farm pond, he has to use some rain gun type of thing. He can grow multiple crops. In current rainy season, anyway, you will go. In Rabi season also you can grow. In summer also you can grow some vegetables. So one particular farmer in a tribal area, with the construction of farm pond and also rain gun, he cultivated within 3 acres of land. He cultivated groundnut, green gram, okra, maize, carrot, red gram. His incomes increased 3 to 4 times. He is not only full self-sufficiency, he also serving the entire village within say about 30-40 households with this vegetable cultivation. And growing of short duration legume crops like mung bean, coffee, mung bean less than 2-3 months of duration. These crops can be grown in the drought type of situations. Field planted with pasture grass. Some type of grass is very much suitable to cultivate under these drought areas or dry lands. Pasture. Nowadays, the demand for milk is increasing, demand for goat and sheep meat is increasing, and the export demand for cattle is also increasing. Everything is increasing. Livestock related products demand is increasing. If not in the domestic market, in the international market, demand is increasing. You can use your dry lands for cultivation of pasture or grasses, etc., and cultivate more or rear more livestock, cattle, fish, all these things. And early cropping, agroforestry, silvic practices. So these perennial crops where the deep root system is there, these crops will have deep root system. Even though there is a drought, the water can be absorbed from deeper layers of the soil. So this type of agroforestry, silvic pasture practices, early cropping can be cultivated. So direct seeded rice type of things where the limited water is available, you can use direct seeded rice instead of conventional methods. You not only reduce water use, but also we can increase the yield or even stabilize the yields. You will have more returns. And mixed cropping or relay cropping or even intercropping like groundnut PGNP 4:1 ratio, maize PGNP 6:2 ratio, soya bean 2:6, 6:2 ratio, soya bean PGNP 4:2. These are commonly practiced by the farmers. Cotton green gram, cotton plus black gram, Sataria plus PGNP. So these mixed crops, intercropping or relay cropping are more suitable for the dryland agriculture. So I think again zero till it is also having some benefits when compared to the conventional practices of the farmers, especially there is no lot of water available in the farms. And also recently there is making broad bed furrow. Broad bed, and this is you see the in the middle. Broad bed is there adjacent to the two furrows. So that this will help the soil land to conserve rainwater and store in the same field, and can be this moisture can be lost when there is no rain. Crop standing on broad bed and furrows. No, even though there are some losses there for the furrows, but still there is a good crop growth in broad bed and furrow. Again, as I mentioned, the cattle, sheep, or goat rearing is all. So I don't want to go into all these things. I will share with you these slides. This is what mainly, what are the constraints in increasing productivity in future? Uncertain rainfalls, low and erratic rainfall, frequent droughts are very frequent, the poor and degraded lands, poor soil health because of the soil erosion, runoff, low organic matter, high temperatures, and low yield. These are all some of the constraints. We need a policy to encourage productivity improvement of natural resources, land and water, to focus on sustainable development of land and water, to make the rainfall less dependent on external inputs. Purchasing external inputs is a big headache to the farmers. It will increase the costs of the farmers. As much as possible, in situ conservation of inputs, in situ conservation of water, the in situ use of all biofertilizers are very, very important in the dryland agriculture to provide appropriate support for inputs, marketing, price support, and risk management strategies. Land development, groundwater management, support system for rainfed farming, input subsidies, market and price support system, risk mitigation is very, very important. The extension systems are important. Conserving genetic material is also. So I think thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. If you are having any doubts, clarifications, please let me know.
Thank you, Dr. Amarender, for a detailed presentation. I'll now take up some questions. Okay. So the first question is, okay, what do you think is the future of dryland agriculture in India? Is the future bright or not so bright?
So this we are developing some new technologies like watershed technologies, already age-old technologies. Some BT cotton technology that revolutionized the dryland areas, especially Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, even Karnataka. But we cannot cultivate 100% of drylands. Some drylands has to be shifted to pasture cultivation, pastures, livestock rearing exclusively, and agroforestry type of thing, forestry products we can develop. We can have some inter-industry linkages, agriculture to timber industry like that. We can keep some of the drylands as ecotourism. Ecotourism spots also we can develop large areas, large parcels of land. But entirely cultivating all the drylands, with the existing technology is not a good possibility. We have to diversify into pasture cultivation, water cultivation. We have to diversify into agroforestry so that it will also conserve soil and water. Also, means uh, ecotourism. These are all the next future of the drylands. Maybe coming 5 years, 10 to 20 years, we have to diversify our dryland agriculture. Dryland specifically, it's not only agriculture, it is wide spectrum of activities. Ecotourism, one spectrum, pasture lands are another thing, even livestock rearing is also another thing. Even nowadays, solar and wind energy also, we can put up large solar and wind and wind plants in those dryland areas.
Okay. And next question is, what does ICAR for dryland agriculture in Hyderabad do? How do your activities benefit the farmers?
So as I mentioned, basically what we are doing developing some technologies, whether it is a broadbed and furrow, natural broadbed and furrow to conserve soil water, even for water harvest structure technologies, what type of water harvest structures will be used, will be applicable to 5 acre of dryland areas or 10 acre of dryland areas under different slope conditions. We are also developing some drought resistant varieties of the pulses, oil seeds, or millets. So these are all the technologies are available, and we are also introducing these technologies into the farmers' fields by developing climate smart villages. Across India, there are about 200, 300 climate smart villages we are developing in these dryland areas. And within that particular areas, villages, we are developing some committees, progressive farmers committees. Those committees will select in collaboration with the scientists. Those committees will select what are the suitable, what is the existing problems in these dryland villages, whether the water is not sufficient, what crop variety is not suitable for local community, whether the cattle or sheep variety is not suitable. Identify some, diagnose those, identify problems, diagnose those problems, and what will be the intervention points we will come out with those in association with the scientists. Those that committees, village committees will come out with some solutions, and they will implement those solutions as a package to the entire village. So over the years, these village ecosystem will develop, the farmer's income will be developed, soil will be enriched with more organic matter, more moisture, water will be available throughout the year. Farmers are going from single crops to two crops. There will be increased cattle productivity, sheep and meat income is also increasing. People are also growing deshi poultry type of things. So multiple sources of income is generated through this type of climate smart village package development. And once we prove that those technologies are successful, those packages are successful, we are trying to replicate those success stories in the nearby villages with the similar type of agroecological background. And we are also helping the state government through contingency plans, district level contingency plans. For example, in normal year, we will not intervene. In a drought year, we will intervene, we will guide the district collector, district agriculture officers. So what type of new strategies are required? What type of crop seeds are required? How we can replace the paddy with some other water saving crops like pulses, oil seeds and millets. This type of what type of varieties are more suitable in the drought situation. This type of recommendations we will give in each district. We will go and meet along with local agriculture officers, and we will try to implement these contingency plans at grassroots level to stabilize the farmers' incomes in the drought years.
Okay. And next question is, as principal scientist, what are exact activities at ICAR?
Exact.
Activities at ICAR.
I am working in developing some recently, for example, Prime Minister Fasal Bima Yojana scheme is there. That is crop insurance scheme. So we are assessing how this Prime Minister Fasal Bima Yojana scheme is across India, how it is implemented, which states it is implementing well, and which states are lagging behind. Why farmers' participation is not that much there in the implementation of in the premium payment of premiums of the Prime Minister for Fasal Bima Yojana. Why there were delays in the payment of claims? Is there any crop loss, but they don't have get the claims in a particular year? And how the modalities of this Prime Minister Fasal Bima Yojana can be changed so that more farmers are willingly participate in this nationwide scheme in India.
Okay. Now we have the last question. If a young student wants to have a career in agriculture research, what advice you will be able to give the student?
So basically, the agriculture contributes about incomes to about 42, 43 or 45% of the population in India. Still 45% of the population depends on the agriculture. It's a major sector. It is the highest sector where largest chunk of the people are depending on agriculture. That is one. So if you work in agriculture, you are benefiting most of the households, most of the individuals in this country. And most of the poverty is concentrated in the agriculture sector. That means if you are working in agriculture sector, you are directly contributing to the country's goal of reducing poverty. That is one. So how you can contribute in this way? One thing you can do is you can develop some new technologies, new crop varieties. That is one thing, major thing. New drought resistant varieties or new cattle breeds or new fish breeds or new poultry breeds, which will give more income to the farmers. That is, you can do that. You can also, like even Sadhguru now Save Soil movement. You can also participate in that type of uh, create that type of social awareness schemes or social awareness programs. Because when Sadhguru is doing as an outsider, as an agriculture scientist or an agriculture student, you can do much better way also. Your main duty is that you have to do it in development of natural resources, both soil and water. There are so many government departments working. You can work in water department, you can work in land department, you can work in rural development department, you can work in agriculture department development. You can also work as a civil service servant also. So that is one thing. And that is in government sector also you can work. In NGO sector also you can work. There are a lot of NGOs working in agriculture sector, especially a lot of NGOs. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is on huge spending is there in agriculture sector. Many like Reddy's Foundation, any foundation you can take. People are working in agriculture sector. And nowadays startups, lot of startups are coming in. to use the technology is available now. The satellite technology is available, the drone technology is available, the very biotechnology is available. So how to apply these technologies to widely acceptable to the farmers at grassroots level so that you can increase the scale of your operations. If today maybe your scale is only 5-6 villages, but if you adapt, if you your startup will try better, and if you are able to do it, you can increase. There are 6 lakh villages in the India, 6 lakh villages. You can spread your technology to 6 lakh villages. If not 6 lakh villages, if even some 10% is 6,000 villages, you can use that 6,000 villages. Just 10% of the villages to cover, that is more than sufficient for any startup to work from the beginning. So startups, agriculture department, the government offices, and also NGOs, even international organizations like ICAR-Central, IFRI, International Food, World Bank, Asian Development Bank. These are all the international banks, donor agencies, national government, central government, state governments, and even local governments. These are all working in agriculture sector. You are having plenty of opportunities. You have to decide based on your own interest. You have to decide which path is more suitable. For example, if you are self-motivated, you go to some NGO, you go to some startup. But if you want to work in a government system, you go to agriculture officer or some other national. Even you can write civil services, but you can work in agriculture sector. But if you want to work in international organizations, even World Bank, Asian Development, these are all open for all agriculture graduates, students.
Okay, Dr. Amarender. Okay, I don't see any further questions from our participants. So now we have come to end of question round. On behalf of agricultureinformation.com, I like to thank Dr. Amarender Reddy for a detailed presentation and answering all the questions. I also like to thank all the participants for joining this meeting. The meeting will now be closed.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you.